We will begin with the bell change. You can feel free to chant along if you'd like, or if not, you can just listen. And afterwards, we will maintain more silence. Simple. We invoke your name, Avalokiteshvara. We aspire to learn your way of listening in order to help relieve the suffering in the world. You know how to listen in order to understand. We invoke your name in order to practice listening with all our attention and open-heartedness. We will sit and listen without any prejudice. We will sit and listen without judging or reacting. We will sit and listen in order to understand. We will sit and listen so attentively that we will be able to hear what the other person is saying and also what is being left unsaid. We know that just by listening deeply, we already alleviate a great deal of pain and suffering in the other person. We invoke your name, Manjushri. We aspire to learn your way, which is to be still and to look deeply into the heart of things and into the hearts of people. We will look with all our attention and open-heartedness. We will look with unprejudiced eyes. We will look without judging or reacting. We will look deeply so that we will be able to see and understand the roots of suffering and the impermanent and selfless nature of all that is. We will practice your way of using the sword of understanding to cut through the bonds of suffering and thus freeing ourselves and other species. We invoke your name, Samantabhadra. We aspire to practice your vow to act with the eyes and heart of compassion, to bring joy to one person in the morning and to ease the pain of one person in the afternoon. We know that the happiness of others is our own happiness, and we aspire to practice joy in the path of service. We know that every word, every look, every action, and every smile can bring happiness to others. We know that if we practice wholeheartedly, we ourselves may become an inexhaustible source of peace and joy for loved ones and for all species. We invoke your name, Kashiti-garbha. We aspire to learn your way of being present where there is darkness, suffering, oppression, and despair, so we can bring light, hope, relief, and liberation to those places. We are determined not to forget about or abandon those in desperate situations. We will do our best to establish contact with those who cannot find a way out of their suffering, those whose cries for help, justice, equality, and human rights are not being heard. We know that hell can be found in many places on earth. We will do our best not to contribute to creating more hells on earth, and we will help transform the hells that are all exist. We will practice in order to realize the qualities of perseverance and stability, so that, like the earth, we can always be supportive and faithful to those in need. We invoke your name, Saraparibhuta. We aspire to learn your way of looking deeply with the eyes of non-discrimination in order to see the true qualities of others. Wherever you meet anyone, you bow respectfully and say in appreciation, I respect you deeply. You are a future Buddha. We vow to look deeply into ourselves to recognize the positive qualities that are there and to love ourselves. We vow only to water positive seeds in ourselves and in those around us. By doing so, our thoughts, words, and deeds will give rise to self-confidence, acceptance of ourselves, our children, grandchildren, and all those we know. We vow to look deeply with the eyes of non-discrimination, to see that the joy and success of the other person is also our joy and success. We vow to behave and to speak with humility, respect, all to practice loving speech, to help people who underestimate themselves, to see that they are wonders of the universe. We know that only when we are able to transcend the barriers of the self shall we be able to transform the superiority, inferiority, inequality complexes and realize true happiness and freedom.
At this time, I'd like to invite our incense offering lighters up. If you open up your packet, you should find our incense offering gatha. Let's say it together. In gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding, slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Good morning. My name is Shin. I use they, them pronouns. I want to start with just a couple courtesy announcements. Um, Anybody with small children or anybody who needs to step away for any reason is welcome to use our downstairs area right through these curtains right here. There's an extra bathroom down there, water fountain, some toys, Legos. Also, as we're kind of filling up, make sure that we're aware of people coming in. If we need to kind of scoot around a little bit to make more room, we can. But it looks like we have a few in the middle here, so we should be fine. But if we do need to move so that people can sit together, just be mindful. As a reminder, try not to walk in front of the dais. If you're crossing, we can walk in front of the back. And as you're entering and leaving, we'll like to give a little bow, just to kind of create a sacred space. As we chant, feel free to chant together, not over or under anybody else. So yeah, keep it happy. Why don't we all stand and greet each other? We'll be doing our morning gathas. Here. Page 7. I go for refuge to Buddha, the deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. And if you'll turn to the next page, we'll be doing the Heart Sutra together. Dharma Prashya Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion, from the deep practice of prajna, paramita, perceived the emptiness of all 5 skandhas, and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness,
Emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance, no old age and death, nor extinction of them, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna, paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive ignorance. Without ignorance there is no fear. Without all perverted views one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant fearless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisvaha. Prajna, paramita, Hridaya Sutra.
Hi. I had a pimple this morning. You might notice I've got a cute little star. If any of you have any pimples, I brought them with me. They're in a really cool case. It's got a little happy face on it and a little mirror. And they've got a little bit of medication on them, and so you can pop it on, and it goes away. So let me know. No shame. I've got pockets. I got lots of stuff in there. I want to talk a little bit about precepts in general. And I will be getting to a specific one, and it's one that maybe none of you have heard about. I remember when I was learning about these, usually we're introduced to the big five, which a lot of you are probably aware of. Um, don't kill things, don't steal, don't lie, um, don't abuse sexuality, and try to stay away from delusions, or sometimes it's said, don't drink. But it's a little bit wider than that. In my tradition, Soto Zen, we take 16 vows. So we take those 5 and we add to them. I believe that started with Dogen, the founder. And I remember hearing a story that when they took their vows to meet their master in China, there was a little bit of a hesitation because they hadn't taken the specific vows that were of that region. And from after that point, Dogen was like, okay, let's just do these 16. Spoiler alert, there's hundreds of them, depending on from what level you're at, if you're in a monastery, if you're a monk, what sect of Buddhism that you're at. There's so many, but one thing that my teacher taught me, Suji, is we've got the 3 pure precepts: to do good, to do no harm, and to live for the benefit of all beings. And they always say that even those 3 can be boiled down to the last one, to live for the benefit of all beings. And so really all the precepts should lead to that. So in some ways we just have one precept, which is a little easier to memorize than the 200 to 300 that I see, depending on the where your sources are. They're a little different than, let's say, laws that you might see in the Hebrew tradition, or sins that you might see in Christianity. In Buddhism, our precepts are a little bit more cause and effect, or functional relationships. If you do this, this is probably going to happen. Go ahead and do it. Find out for yourself. You don't have to listen to me. But, they're pretty fundamental, universal sort of moral ideas for the most part. I think, too, it's nice to know that it's not so dogmatic. It's also a little bit of a puzzle. Sometimes it's impossible to follow all of them at once. Sometimes they contradict. Sometimes they inform the other, which is why we have to kind of go back to the big one. How am I living for the benefit of all beings? Of course, when I was kind of diving in and getting started, I was like, we've got the one, and that kind of cascades into the other 16. But what are the other ones? I was pretty curious. So I actually did some studying, and some of them are kind of funny. I actually want to read you some of them. And keep in mind, a lot of these are not really practiced by anyone anymore. Some of them are practiced by certain sects of Buddhism, only maybe when you're in a monastery, when you've taken certain vows. And like I said, these are more about pragmatic rules than they are some sort of dogmatic rule given from on high. A lot of these rules were made because, as my teacher once told me, in the olden days, a lot of monks were, from lots of different walks of life, and they're usually pretty young. We're talking coming in as children. And so, you've got a bunch of middle school boys all together in a room. It's can be a little chaotic. I don't know if anybody has ever been a teacher or has kids, but you kind of know. So sometimes the precepts can be a little bit more like school rules than commandments. So keep that in mind too. I'm going to go through some of my favorites, as in I think they're a little bizarre, but they're funny, just to give you an idea of some of them. Let's see. So one rule is to not go eat at another place after having already been invited somewhere. So I don't know if anybody's ever broken this rule, but if you promise your friends you go out for dinner and you said, you know what, I'm so busy tonight, and then you order taken, you broke number 33. Sorry. Another one is that we're not to store food in the afternoon time. So if any of you have gone grocery shopping after work instead of before work, you've actually broken rule number 38. This one's a really tough one. Number 52, do not tickle. This one's a little hard in the summertime, although I think most of us have done a good job over the winter. Number 53, do not play in the water. um, yeah, this kind of gives you an idea of some of these. I'd like to think that there was some very specific story for each of these, as the the abbot of a certain monastery. You know, the tickling's getting out of hand. We need to write down a rule here. There's got to be a way. um, but as I was reading through these, some of these did actually make some sense, and some of them were probably more about the context that they were given. And I'm going to talk about my favorite. Let me see if I can find it here. um, again, I'm reading from a list of 227. So there's a lot of them. And most of them are just as bizarre as the ones that I've read to you. But one of my favorites is that when we take our vows, we are given generally two things. We're given a robe that in our tradition that we have to sew ourselves as part of our practice. And we're giving a set of ceremonial bowls. In Japan, Soto Zen called oryoki bowls. These are for kind of a ceremonial mindfulness eating, but both the robe and the bowl has a lot of symbolism because according to myth or legend, Buddha only had two possessions. He had his robes and he had his bowl. And for the Buddha, his bowl was also a way to beg and to receive alms, but it was also a way to feed himself. So I guess that's all you really need, right? But there is one of these precepts that says that you're not to throw away your bowl until it has at least 5 cracks or is completely unusable. And this is one of my favorite of the precepts, not counting the 16, I guess. Because it's actually pretty profound, especially when you live in 2024. How many of you in the last year have dropped a mug? Okay. Yep. How many of you then took that mug and tried to glue it back together? A couple of you. Yeah. I don't know if I have any anti-capitalists out there or anti-consumerist or people who just want to get more bang for their buck. But sometimes learning how to glue the handle back on a mug or sew a button back on your favorite jacket can be a radical act. We often talk about extending compassion to all beings. The one precept that I told you about, the one that kind of encompasses them all, live for the benefit of all beings. Well, how does taking care of our things, how does that help all beings? Does it help ourselves? When we have care for that, how does that cascade into helping others? Well, there's a couple lessons that I think we can take from the gluing the pieces of the bowl back together. I guess the first one is sometimes that repair can be the defining characteristic of our objects. There's an old tradition in Japan that I like to think stems from people desperately trying to follow this precept, and that is an art of repair in pottery known as kintsugi. Some of you may be familiar with this. They would take usually gold powder and they'd mix it in with a lacquer or a resin, and they'd use that to repair the broken bowls. And when it was all said and done, you would see this vein of gold that would run across, very obviously showing where the bowl had broken. And it's very beautiful. The repair jobs sometimes are more beautiful than the creation of the bowl itself. I did bring up my pimple, and that wasn't by accident. I planned that. I didn't plan the pimple. I just I work with a lot of people younger than me. I don't feel that old, but sometimes when I'm at work, I do feel old. I'm 35. But there's been this cool little skincare revolution going on with Gen Z that I really appreciate. I remember when I was in high school, Pimples were something that we had to be very ashamed of. We had to hide them. We even had to use concealer. Which even just the name of that, concealer, what are we concealing? Why are we so ashamed of our pimples? But now we've got a big giant golden star, our little Kitsugi golden streak that we'll just slap right on there with some medication, which I think is really cool. Because what does that say to the people around you when, you know, I'm going to flaunt my healing? I'm going to flaunt the things that maybe are my cracks. I'm not going to hide it. And, not only does that allow me to heal, I'm pretty sure that a little medicated patch is going to do a lot more good than trying to cake it over with some foundation. um, but also it kind of telegraphs to the people around me that it's okay. It's okay to have a pimple. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And if you need to take some time to heal out in the open and be proud of it, then do it. Plus, you get to wear cool little stars on your face. As you may have kind of put two and two together, this isn't just about pimples. I think this is about a lot of things in our lives and a lot of things that we use for healing. And unfortunately, a lot of times the things that we're struggling with, we try to use that concealer. We aren't very open to it. We're told, oh, we've got to, buck up, keep it in, keep going, keep calm, carry on. But how much more powerful would it be if our healing became something that we could be proud of, that we could let happen, let be defining parts of us. And then also we can show the people around us, hey, it's okay. It's okay that you're struggling with this. It's okay to heal out in the open with everybody else. I think that's also a radical act. I work with people with special needs, especially in the autism population. And something really cool happened to me last week that I want to tell you about. We had a new person come in who had been dealing with some really strong anxieties about leaving their home. I've dealt with people who are, for lack of a better term, agoraphobic before, and it's really tough for people. They did finally come in, which was a huge step for them to leave their home and to come and be with us. And as soon as they're settled in, I had another one of my clients come and just introduce themselves. And it seemed pretty mundane, just two people introducing themselves, talking about things they're into. But the client that I had go over was in a very similar spot when they first came. And there's something really powerful about being able to have that empathy that comes with that crack. It becomes such a powerful tool of compassion because the person who came in and introduced themselves knew exactly what that felt like. They knew how they felt. They knew maybe what to say, what they needed. I think perfect people make horrible teachers. And I hope none of you are perfect. I don't want a perfect teacher, and I never want to be a perfect teacher, because sometimes having gone through it, having been cracked, even if it's 5 times, can be such a wonderful, beautiful part of who you are. It can be your gold streak. You'll see the people around you with the same cracks, and you'll instantly be there. And you showing that pimple patch is telling that person it's okay. It's going to heal. And this is going to be your superpower, because you can take this and you can show that it's all right. You can show that it's okay to heal out in the open. It's okay to put the medicine on and not the concealer. I think I'm going to end it there. I will give you a little bit of homework. The next time you pop a seam, a button falls off, you drop your mug, take some time to put it back together. And maybe the handle that pops off is your own handle. Take some time to fix that and to repair that, and be brave enough to do that out in the open, because it's not just about you. It's about the people around you and what they need to see. We need good models. Everybody seems to be healing out concealed in their own. We only see the best parts of people. So be a little messy. We need that. All right, let's prepare ourselves for some meditation. All right. I want to take some time if anybody has any joys or concerns or neutrals they would like to talk about and bring up. So just raise your hand. Yep. And you'll have to talk into the microphone or they won't hear you.
Good morning, Sangha. This morning I wanted to share with you my broken bowl a little bit. The last 2 years I've been sitting with the side effects and treatments of cancer, and that will weigh heavy on a fellow, you know. So it's my gratitude then to the tech team that has allowed me to continue to join when I'm not here in person. Thank you.
This past week, I was able to take a trip with my mom and my son to a place in California where I always went with my family and sometimes just with my dad. And my dad passed away about a year ago. So it was my son's first time there. And it was just really sweet to bring him there and to be there and have all those memories, and also to spend time with my mom as our relationship is kind of changing and healing a little bit. So I just have a lot of gratitude to have been able to do that. So
I just wanted to thank everybody that helped set up this morning. So when we came in, it was a little bit not properly to specifications, but me, I looked at it, I'm like, something looks wrong. And then Shin's like, this is definitely not right. And everybody just kind of jumped up, put it all together, and looks great. So thank you very much.
I will just say too, Nasanskara, who does a lot of the coordinating with all of that, couldn't be here this morning, and I really, really appreciate them. And sometimes we need absence to appreciate things. So I'm grateful that things were a little messy this morning walking in, because that just makes me appreciate them even more. So I don't know if you're listening, but thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Just so happy to be here. So grateful. I sleep very late at night. So every morning I do make a resolve, Sunday I have to be here. And I miss out on that Sunday. So today I said I have to be here. I just want to say that I'm very grateful to be here. And I brought some, let's say the Indian word prasad, some snacks for everyone. So after this, we can all go downstairs and partake of that. Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Do we have any online? No? Okay. Everybody's doing perfect then. Why don't we take a couple moments just to hold that all in, okay? As a bonus one. I did have a couple announcements for April. We do have our Grand Rapids Buddhist Temple board meeting, and I have penciled it in here April 21st from 1 to 2 p.m. And there will be a Google Meet link for that as well if you can't make it in person. We also have an online meditation group that meets Wednesdays from 7 to 7:45 p.m. And that is on Zoom. And you can contact Kunga for any more details on that. We also have a Thursday Dharma discussion group that meets Thursdays from 9:30 to 11 a.m. You can contact Jingsu, Ryan, for any more information on that. We also have a new study group, the Avatamska Sutra study group, and that will meet on Thursdays, April 4th and 18th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the temple. And you can email Will for any more information on that. We also have, excuse me, we also have our spring silent retreat coming at the end of April, April 27th, which I believe is a Saturday. And that'll be from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. here at the temple. You can contact Kunga for any more information about that. And I hope to see a lot of you there. The last one was really, really great. So, we also have our Buddhist-based recovery meetings. They meet on Monday at 6:30 p.m. For meditation, and then 7 p.m. for the meeting at the temple. Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. at the Alano Club. And then Fridays at 10:05 a.m. for meditation and 10:30 to meet at the temple. I love that it starts at 10:05. I always think that's kind of funny. Hopefully we won't need this until way later in the year, but I do want to remind you that if there is any severe weather notices, we'll let you guys know through email if you are signed up for the newsletter, but we also post on all of our social media platforms just in case we need to move to all online for that particular day. Do we have any other announcements? Yes.
Good morning, Sangha. My name is Ellen. The word dana in our practice means generosity, and there are so many ways to exhibit generosity. One is your time. You're all here sharing your space with Sangha. We appreciate that. If you would also like to share some of your time with becoming an incense lighter or a greeter at the door or helping with the tech team, they tell me, and I believe them, that you don't have to be tech savvy to do that. Something about just pushing one button. So it's not a difficult thing to do. And, you know, they're limping along. You're welcome, Kent. Also, of course, there's the financial end of generosity. No one here at the temple receives compensation for anything that they do. That includes the tech team, our clergy, the board. So, of course, we would like to see some money in the coffers. We do have dana boxes on each end of the temple, cash or money, check. I knew I'd screw up something. And there's also a QR code on each box will take you right directly to PayPal. You can set up a one-time donation or a monthly donation. You can go to our website, zengr.org. It's on the back of David's shirt. I saw that. And go to the donate button there as well. And lastly, if you are watching on YouTube, there's a drop-down menu that will also take you to PayPal. So anytime that you are able, we would be much appreciated that. Thank you. Bye.
Just a couple end of service announcements. If you could kind of leave the place like you found it. So if you need to kind of rearrange the cushions, make them look pretty. There'll probably be some people gathering the sutra books too. So we can kind of work together on that. And also afterwards, I hope to see some of you downstairs because we usually have tea downstairs and we can chat if you'd like. I also have more pimple patches. I don't believe that nobody else has a pimple. So I wasn't joking. I have them. But before we go, why don't we stand for our closing gathas? And you can find those on page 9. we'll say together. For all unskillful actions ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, I now atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. And if we can face each other. Thank you all. All right, I'll see you downstairs.